The year was 2347, and humanity had finally stepped beyond the boundaries of its solar system. The vastness of space stretched out like an endless ocean, filled with mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Among the countless ships exploring this uncharted territory was the USS Endeavour, a sleek vessel manned by some of Earth's brightest minds. Its crew had been sent on what seemed to be a routine mission, to map new star systems and search for signs of intelligent life. But as fate would have it, their journey was about to take a turn that none of them could have predicted. Captain Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of the ship, his hands clasped behind his back as he stared at the swirling nebula outside the viewport. He was a man in his late 40s with short graying hair and a calm demeanor that inspired confidence among his crew. Despite his years of service, there was still something thrilling about venturing into the unknown. Space always held surprises, and today felt like one of those days when something extraordinary might happen. At the helm sat Lieutenant Kevin Blake, a young officer whose enthusiasm sometimes outweighed his experience. Beside him was Ensign Rachel Moore, who monitored the ship's sensors with quiet focus. Further back, near the communications panel, stood Lieutenant Emily Dawson, the ship's xenolinguist. She was in her early 30s, with sharp green eyes and a quick mind. Her job was to decipher alien languages and facilitate communication if, or rather when, they encountered extraterrestrial beings. Today, however, she wasn't expecting much excitement. Routine missions rarely involved first contact, but then the alarms blared. "Captain," Rachel called out, her voice tense. "We've detected an unidentified object approaching our position. It's moving fast." Daniel turned sharply toward her station. "Details?" "It's enormous," Rachel replied, her fingers flying over the controls. "At least 3 times the size of the Endeavour. Energy readings are off the charts." Kevin glanced nervously at the captain. "Should we go to red alert?" "Not yet," Daniel said firmly. "Let's see what we're dealing with first." He moved closer to the main view screen, which flickered to life moments later. What appeared on the screen made everyone freeze. Massive alien ship loomed before them, its surface gleaming with metallic armor plating. Unlike human vessels, it lacked any visible engines or thrusters. Instead, it seemed to glide effortlessly through space, exuding an aura of raw power. Strange symbols etched into its hull pulsed faintly, casting an eerie glow around the craft. It looked less like a machine and more like a living organism, designed to intimidate. "They're hailing us," Emily announced, snapping everyone out of their stunned silence. "Put it on screen," Daniel ordered, stepping forward. The image shifted, revealing a towering figure seated in what appeared to be a command chair. His or its body was covered in thick chiseled muscles, each one rippling with strength. His skin shimmered with a faint blue hue, and his eyes glowed with an intensity that seemed to pierce straight through the screen. Behind him stood several others of his kind, all equally imposing. They radiated authority and dominance, making it clear they were not here to negotiate lightly. "This is Commander Varnock of the Krylos Empire," the figure boomed, his voice resonating telepathically in every member of the crew's minds. "Identify yourselves and explain your presence in this sector." Lieutenant Emily took a deep breath and stepped forward. This was her moment. "Commander Varnock," she began, speaking slowly and clearly, "we are representatives of the United Earth Federation aboard the starship USS Endeavour. We mean no harm. Our mission is purely exploratory." Varnock tilted his head slightly, studying her with obvious curiosity. "Exploratory? You dare venture so far from your homeworld without purpose? Explain." Emily hesitated for a fraction of a second, but quickly regained her composure. "We seek knowledge, understanding, and peaceful relations with other species. Humanity believes in cooperation, not conquest." For a moment, Varnock said nothing. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that echoed menacingly across the channel. "Cooperation. Conquest requires strength. Do you claim to possess such strength?" Before Emily could respond, Captain Carter interjected. "Strength comes in many forms, Commander. Perhaps we can learn from each other." Varnock's expression darkened. You are bold, Captain. Very well. We shall board your vessel. Prepare to receive us. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Kevin broke the tension first. Boarding? Are they serious? What if they're hostile? We don't have much choice, Daniel replied grimly. They're stronger and faster than us. Resistance would be futile. For now, we play along and hope diplomacy prevails. As preparations began for the arrival of the Krylos delegation, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something unusual was happening. She replayed the conversation in her mind, trying to piece together why Varnock had reacted so strangely to their claims of seeking cooperation. There was something in his tone, a mix of skepticism and intrigue, that hinted at deeper layers beneath his aggressive exterior. When the Krylos finally materialized on the Endeavor's transporter pad, their sheer physical presence was overwhelming. Each warrior stood at least 7 feet tall with bulging muscles and piercing gazes. Their leader, Varnock, marched ahead, flanked by 2 guards armed with weapons that looked both ancient and advanced. Despite their intimidating appearance, they moved with surprising grace as though their bodies were finely tuned instruments of precision. Captain Carter greeted them formally, introducing himself and his senior officers. Emily watched closely as the Krylos scanned the room, their glowing eyes lingering on every detail. To her surprise, they didn't immediately demand answers or issue threats. Instead, they seemed curious, almost puzzled. It was during this initial meeting that Emily noticed something odd. Whenever the humans spoke or interacted, the Krylos kept tilting their heads as though struggling to comprehend something. At first, she thought it might be cultural differences or language barriers, but then Varnock leaned down slightly, his glowing eyes locking onto hers. "Tell me, human," he said, his voice reverberating in her mind. "Why do you always sit at the back?" Emily blinked, caught off guard by the question. "At the back?" she repeated, unsure what he meant. "Yes," Varnock pressed. "In your formations, your gatherings, even now in this room. Your kind positions itself strategically behind others. Why?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Emily glanced at Captain Carter, who gave her a subtle nod to proceed. "I'm not sure I understand," she admitted cautiously. "Perhaps it's simply habit or tradition." Varnock frowned, clearly dissatisfied with her answer. "Habit does not explain everything. There is meaning in your actions whether you realize it or not." Before Emily could respond further, the Krylos leader straightened up and addressed the entire group. "We will remain aboard your vessel temporarily. Show us your ways. If you prove worthy, we may spare your species. Otherwise," he let the threat hang unfinished, turning away with a dismissive wave. As the Krylos departed to explore other parts of the ship, Emily found herself reflecting on Varnock's words. Why did humans tend to sit at the back? Was it truly just habit, or was there something deeper at play? And why did the Krylos care so much? Little did she know this seemingly simple observation would set the stage for events that would change the course of humanity's relationship with the galaxy forever. The Krylos delegation's arrival at United Earth headquarters was met with a mixture of excitement, fear, and curiosity. News of their encounter with the USS Endeavor had spread quickly, and humanity prepared to greet these towering visitors, with both caution and hope. The Krylos were unlike any species humans had encountered before, not only because of their immense physical strength, but also due to their reputation as one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Their empire spanned countless star systems, and stories of their brutal efficiency in battle were whispered among spacefarers. Yet here they were, stepping onto Earth's soil, not as conquerors, at least not yet, but as observers. Captain Daniel Carter and his crew accompanied the Krylos as they descended from orbit aboard a shuttlecraft. As the massive aliens disembarked, their sheer size drew gasps from the gathered crowd. Commander Varnock led the group, flanked by his warriors, each step they took seeming to shake the ground beneath them. They wore armor that shimmered faintly under the sunlight, its design sleek yet menacing. Despite their intimidating appearance, they moved with an almost regal bearing, as if fully aware of their dominance over weaker species. Lieutenant Emily Dawson watched them closely, her mind racing. She couldn't stop thinking about Varnock's question during their first meeting. "Why do you always sit at the back?" It lingered in her thoughts like an unsolved puzzle. Was it truly just a trivial observation, or did it hold some deeper significance to the Krylos? Whatever the answer, she knew it was important. Important enough for the aliens to travel all the way to Earth to investigate. Earth's leaders wasted no time in rolling out the red carpet for their guests. A grand tour of humanity's greatest achievements awaited the Krylos, showcasing everything from art and science to technology and culture. Museums displayed ancient artifacts alongside cutting-edge innovations, while holographic presentations depicted humanity's journey from primitive tribes to interstellar explorers. For humans, it was a chance to prove their worth, to show the Krylos that despite their smaller stature and lack of brute strength, they were capable of greatness. But the Krylos remained aloof. As they walked through exhibits and listened to speeches, their expressions betrayed little emotion. Varnock's glowing eyes scanned every corner of the displays, occasionally narrowing as if searching for flaws. His warriors stood silently beside him, their arms crossed and faces unreadable. Only Tarek, one of the younger Krylos warriors, seemed remotely engaged. He leaned forward slightly to examine certain pieces more closely, his brow furrowing as he tried to make sense of what he saw. At one point, Emily approached Tarek cautiously. "Does anything interest you?" she asked, keeping her tone light and friendly. Tarek turned to look at her, his glowing eyes softening ever so slightly. "Your history is unusual," he admitted. "You started weak, fragile, yet somehow managed to survive and grow stronger. I don't understand how." Emily smiled faintly. "That's part of being human. We adapt. We find ways to overcome challenges." Tarek tilted his head, considering her words. "Adaptation is survival, but survival alone does not grant power." Before Emily could respond, Varnock called out sharply, summoning Tarek back to his side. Emily stepped aside, watching as the young warrior obediently rejoined his commander. There was something different about Tarek compared to the others, something less rigid, more curious. She filed that thought away for later. Later that evening, a formal banquet was held in honor of the Krylos delegation. Human dignitaries filled the hall, dressed in their finest attire, eager to impress their alien guests. Tables groaned under the weight of delicacies from across the globe, while musicians played soothing melodies in the background. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, or at least it would have been if the Krylos hadn't towered over everyone like statues carved from living stone. As the meal progressed, conversations flowed awkwardly between humans and Krylos. Many of the aliens declined the offered food, claiming it was incompatible with their biology. Instead, they observed the humans eating, their expressions unreadable. At one point, Varnock stood abruptly, silencing the room with his presence. "You claim your species has achieved much," he said, his voice resonating telepathically in everyone's minds. "Yet I see no evidence of true strength, no mastery of force or will. Tell me, humans, why should we consider you equals?" The question hung heavily in the air, leaving many speechless. Finally, Captain Carter rose to his feet, meeting Varnock's gaze without flinching. "Strength isn't measured solely by physical power," he replied steadily. "It's found in resilience, creativity, and the ability to work together. Humanity may not match your raw might, but we've survived wars, plagues, and disasters because we refuse to give up." Varnock stared at him for a long moment before nodding slowly. "Perhaps, but actions speak louder than words. Show us proof of this resilience you boast of." The next day, humanity complied with Varnock's request. They arranged a demonstration at a military training facility located on the outskirts of the city. Soldiers clad in combat gear lined up neatly, ready to showcase their skills. Rifles clicked into place. Boots stomped rhythmically against the ground, and flags fluttered proudly in the breeze. To the humans, it was a display of discipline and unity. To the Krylos, however, It looked amateurish. When the soldiers began practicing hand-to-hand combat drills, the Krylos's disdain became evident. Their techniques appeared clumsy and inefficient compared to the brutal efficiency of Krylos warriors. Even Lieutenant Kevin Blake, who had joined the demonstration to represent the Endeavor, struggled to keep up when paired against one of the Krylos in a mock sparring match. The alien moved with lightning speed, effortlessly dodging every strike and countering with devastating precision. "You call this fighting?" sneered one of the Krylos warriors, shaking his head in disappointment. "This is child's play." Kevin staggered backward, breathing heavily, his pride wounded. Before he could retaliate, Emily stepped forward, raising her hands in a gesture of peace. "Wait," she said firmly. "Let us try something else. Maybe teamwork is where our strength lies." Intrigued, Varnock motioned for his warriors to stand down. Emily quickly organized the soldiers into small teams, instructing them to rely on strategy rather than brute force. When the sparring resumed, the humans worked together seamlessly, using feints, distractions, and coordinated attacks to overwhelm their opponents. While the Krylos still possessed superior strength, they found themselves struggling to counter the humans' clever tactics. By the end of the demonstration, even Varnock looked impressed, or at least less dismissive. "Interesting," he rumbled. "Your kind lacks individual power but compensates with cooperation. This is unexpected." Encouraged by the shift in attitude, Emily seized the opportunity to delve deeper. "There's more to us than meets the eye," she said. "We're adaptable, resourceful, and determined. Sometimes sitting at the back gives us a better view of the bigger picture." Varnock frowned, clearly puzzled. "Explain." Emily hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "When we position ourselves at the back, it's not because we're afraid or weak. It's because we want to observe, analyze, and plan before acting. It's a form of strategic thinking, one that has helped us survive and thrive." For a moment, Varnock said nothing. Then, to everyone's surprise, he nodded thoughtfully. "I see. Perhaps there is wisdom in your methods after all." Though tensions still lingered between the two species, the seeds of understanding had been planted. Over the next few days, the Krylos continued their exploration of Earth, delving deeper into human society. They visited schools, hospitals, and research facilities, marveling at humanity's ingenuity despite its limitations. Slowly but surely, cracks began to form in their armor of arrogance, revealing glimpses of curiosity and admiration. Among the Krylos, Tarek emerged as a key figure bridging the gap between the two species. Unlike his peers, he openly expressed fascination with human culture, often asking questions and seeking explanations. He formed a tentative friendship with Emily, who patiently answered his inquiries and shared insights into human nature. Through their conversations, Tarek began to realize that humanity's perceived weaknesses were actually strengths in disguise. Meanwhile, Captain Carter worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure the visit remained peaceful. He coordinated with Earth's leaders to address any concerns raised by the Krylos, offering solutions and compromises whenever possible. Though the stakes were high, he never lost sight of his ultimate goal: to forge a bond of trust between humanity and the galaxy's strongest species. As the days passed, it became clear that the Krylos's initial hostility had softened, replaced by a grudging respect for humanity's unique qualities. What started as a tense standoff was gradually evolving into something far more meaningful, a chance for two vastly different species to learn from each other, and perhaps even become allies. Little did anyone know this newfound understanding would soon be put to the test. The relationship between the humans and the Krylos had reached a delicate balance. While the towering aliens no longer dismissed humanity outright, they still struggled to fully grasp what made humans so resilient. Their curiosity about human behavior deepened, especially after Emily's explanation about sitting at the back. For the Krylos, this concept of strategic positioning was foreign, almost baffling. To them, strength meant standing at the forefront, dominating any situation with sheer power. The idea of holding back, observing and planning before acting went against everything they believed. Emily Dawson spent much of her time trying to bridge this gap in understanding. She knew that if the Krylos could see the value in humanity's approach, it might pave the way for lasting peace. But explaining abstract concepts like patience, observation, and teamwork was easier said than done. These ideas came naturally to humans but seemed almost alien to the Krylos, who valued directness and immediacy above all else. One evening, as the Krylos delegation prepared to leave Earth temporarily to inspect one of their nearby outposts, Commander Varnock approached Captain Daniel Carter. His glowing eyes narrowed as he spoke. "Your species is perplexing," he admitted gruffly. "You claim to possess hidden strengths, yet we have seen little evidence of them beyond your tactics in combat. Prove to us that your ways are truly effective." Captain Carter exchanged a glance with Emily, who nodded subtly. This was an opportunity, a chance to demonstrate humanity's ingenuity in action. "Very well," Carter replied. "We'll organize a joint exercise, a simulated crisis where both our species must work together to succeed." Varnock tilted his head, intrigued. "A test of cooperation?" "Exactly," Emily interjected. "It will require more than just physical strength or brute force. Success will depend on combining our skills, your power, and our problem-solving abilities." After some deliberation, Varnock agreed. The simulation would take place aboard a derelict spacecraft orbiting Earth, designed to mimic real-world challenges such as system failures, environmental hazards, and unexpected threats. Both humans and Krylos would need to collaborate to repair the ship, restore its systems, and ensure everyone's survival. The day of the simulation arrived and tensions were high. The derelict vessel floated silently in space, its exterior battered and scarred from years of neglect. Inside, malfunctioning lights flickered sporadically, casting eerie shadows across the corridors. Emergency alarms blared intermittently, adding to the sense of urgency. Teams of humans and Krylos gathered in the main chamber awaiting instructions. Captain Carter addressed the group through a comlink. "This is a test of adaptability and teamwork. Each team will face unique challenges requiring both physical strength and creative thinking. Work together, or fail alone." As the simulation began, the participants split into smaller groups, each assigned to different sections of the ship. Emily found herself paired with Tarek, the younger Krylos warrior, who had shown interest in human culture. Together they were tasked with repairing a damaged reactor core, a critical component keeping the ship's life support systems operational. At first, Tarek took charge, relying on his immense strength to pry open jammed panels and reroute heavy conduits. Emily watched quietly, analyzing the situation before stepping in. "Wait," she said, pointing to a series of blinking warning lights. "If we reroute too much power here, it could overload the system. We need to stabilize it first." Tarek frowned, clearly frustrated by the delay. "But time is short. Every moment wasted brings us closer to failure." "I know," Emily replied calmly. "But rushing without a plan will only make things worse. Trust me." Reluctantly, Tarek stepped aside, allowing Emily to take the lead. Using her knowledge of engineering, she reconfigured the power flow, stabilizing the reactor just in time to prevent a catastrophic surge. Only then did she signal for Tarek to resume his work, guiding him step by step to complete the repairs safely. By the end of the task, Tarek looked at Emily with newfound respect. "Your methods are slow but effective," he admitted. "I begin to see why you value strategy over speed." In another part of the ship, Lieutenant Kevin Blake worked alongside a burly Krylos warrior named Rokar. Their mission involved sealing a breach in the hull caused by micrometeoroid impacts. Rokar immediately charged forward, attempting to weld the hole shut using brute force. However, the intense heat from his torch destabilized the surrounding metal, widening the breach instead of closing it. Kevin stepped in quickly, grabbing Rokar's arm to stop him. "Hold on! You're making it worse. Let me assess the damage first." Rokar growled, annoyed by the interruption. "Assess? There is no time for assessment." "Yes, there is," Kevin insisted, pointing to the structural weaknesses around the breach. If we don't reinforce these areas first, the entire section could collapse. Here, help me secure these braces, then we can seal it properly. Though skeptical, Rokar followed Kevin's instructions. Working together, they managed to stabilize the hull and seal the breach, narrowly avoiding disaster. As they stood back to admire their handiwork, Rokar gave Kevin a reluctant nod of approval. "Perhaps your caution has merit," he rumbled. Throughout the ship, similar scenarios played out. Humans and Krylos clashed initially, each side struggling to adapt to the other's approach. But as the simulation progressed, they began to find common ground. The Krylos learned to appreciate the precision and foresight of human strategies, while the humans discovered how invaluable the Krylos' raw power could be when applied thoughtfully. When the final challenge arose, a massive fire engulfing the engine room, the combined efforts of both species proved decisive. While the Krylos used their incredible strength to contain the flames and remove debris, the humans coordinated the evacuation of trapped personnel and rerouted coolant systems to extinguish the blaze. It was a perfect example of synergy. The Krylos provided the muscle, while the humans supplied the brains. As the simulation concluded, Captain Carter addressed the assembled teams via comlink. "Well done, everyone. You've proven that cooperation isn't just possible, it's essential. Each of you brought something unique to the table, and together, you achieved what neither species could have done alone." Commander Varnock stepped forward, his expression unreadable. For several moments he simply observed the weary but triumphant faces of the humans and his own warriors. Then he spoke. "I underestimated you," he admitted, his voice carrying a rare note of humility. "Your strengths are not obvious, but they are undeniable. Perhaps there is wisdom in your ways after all." His words sent a ripple of relief through the human crew. Emily felt a surge of pride, not just for herself but for all of humanity. They had faced judgment, skepticism, and even hostility, yet they had persevered, proving their worth through action rather than words. Tarek approached Emily as the teams prepared to return to Earth. "You have taught me much," he said sincerely. "Your kind may lack our physical might, but your minds are weapons in their own right." Emily smiled faintly. "And your strength is something we can never match. Together we're stronger than either of us alone." For the first time since their arrival, the Krylos seemed genuinely impressed. Their initial arrogance had softened, replaced by a growing appreciation for humanity's resilience and adaptability. Though challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, the foundation for mutual respect had been laid. Back aboard the USS Endeavour, Captain Carter reflected on the events of the past few days. Humanity had passed a crucial test, earning the Krylos' cautious admiration. But he knew this was only the beginning. Building trust would take time, effort, and continued cooperation. Still, he couldn't help but feel hopeful. If two such vastly different species could find common ground, then perhaps anything was possible. Little did anyone realize that the lessons learned during the simulation would soon be put to the ultimate test. Far beyond the edges of explored space, a new threat loomed, a danger that would force humans and Krylos to unite like never before. The days following the successful simulation brought a noticeable shift in the dynamic between humans and the Krylos. The towering aliens, once dismissive and condescending, now moved among their human counterparts with a mix of curiosity and cautious respect. Commander Varnock still carried an air of authority, but his sharp edges had softened slightly. He no longer questioned humanity's worth outright, though he remained skeptical about whether their strengths could truly compare to those of the Krylos. Lieutenant Emily Dawson found herself spending more time with Tarek, the younger Krylos warrior who had shown genuine interest in human culture. Their conversations ranged from simple explanations of Earth customs to deeper discussions about philosophy and survival. Tarek often asked questions that revealed how differently the Krylos viewed the world, or rather, the galaxy. To them, strength was everything, physical, unyielding, and immediate. Anything less was seen as weakness. One evening, as the two sat together in a quiet corner of United Earth headquarters, Tarek leaned forward, his glowing eyes fixed on Emily. "I do not understand," he said slowly. "If your kind values strategy so highly, why do you not seek to dominate others? Why do you choose peace over conquest?" Emily paused, considering her answer carefully. "It's not always about domination," she replied. "For us, peace allows growth. When we work together instead of fighting, we achieve more than we ever could alone. War destroys. Peace creates." Tarek frowned, clearly struggling to grasp the concept. "But peace requires trust. How can you trust those who are weaker or different from you?" Emily smiled faintly. "Trust isn't given freely, it's earned. And sometimes it starts with small steps. Like this moment right now, you're asking questions instead of assuming answers. That's progress." Tarek nodded thoughtfully, though his expression suggested he wasn't entirely convinced. Still, Emily could see the wheels turning in his mind. For someone raised in a society built on power and dominance, these ideas were revolutionary and perhaps unsettling. Meanwhile, Captain Daniel Carter worked tirelessly behind the scenes to solidify the fragile bond forming between the two species. He coordinated meetings between Earth's leaders and the Krylos delegation, ensuring open lines of communication. Though tensions occasionally flared, especially when disagreements arose over cultural differences, the overall tone remained constructive. Slowly but surely, mutual understanding began to take root. During one such meeting, Commander Varnock posed a question that caught everyone off guard. "You humans speak often of adaptability," he said, addressing the assembled. "Yet I have observed something else. Your actions suggest restraint. You hold back even when victory is within reach. Why?" Captain Carter exchanged a glance with Emily before responding. "Restraint is part of our strategy," he explained. "Sometimes holding back allows us to assess risks and make better decisions. It's not about giving up, it's about knowing when to act and when to wait." Varnock's brow furrowed. "Waiting feels like weakness." "It can feel that way," Emily chimed in. "But it's not. Think of it like this. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a cliff, ready to leap across a chasm. If you jump too soon, you might fall short, but if you wait, gather your strength and time your leap perfectly, you'll succeed." Varnock stared at her for a long moment as if trying to picture the scenario. Finally, he nodded. "An interesting analogy. Perhaps there is merit in patience after all." As the days passed, the Krylos continued their exploration of Earth, delving deeper into human society. They visited schools where children greeted them with wide-eyed wonder, hospitals where they witnessed humanity's compassion for the sick and injured, and research facilities where scientists shared groundbreaking discoveries. Each experience chipped away at the Krylos' preconceived notions, revealing layers of complexity they hadn't anticipated. In one particularly memorable encounter, a group of Krylos warriors accompanied Lieutenant Kevin Blake to a community center hosting a martial arts demonstration. The humans showcased various forms of self-defense, emphasizing discipline, control, and mental focus over brute force. At first, the Krylos scoffed at the seemingly slow and deliberate movements, but when invited to participate, they quickly realized the effectiveness of these techniques. Even Rokar, the burly warrior who had clashed with Kevin during the simulation, found himself impressed by the precision and efficiency of human combat styles. "These methods are unexpected," Rokar admitted grudgingly. "They lack power, but compensate with skill." Kevin grinned. "Exactly. Sometimes less is more." By the end of the demonstration, several Krylos warriors had expressed interest in learning more about human martial arts. This newfound appreciation marked another step toward bridging the gap between the two species. Despite these positive developments, challenges remained. Not all Krylos were willing to embrace humanity's ways. Some viewed the humans' emphasis on cooperation and restraint as signs of inferiority, clinging stubbornly to their belief that true strength lay solely in physical prowess. Among them was Commander Varnock himself, whose pride made it difficult for him to fully acknowledge humanity's value. Emily noticed this resistance during a private conversation with Tarek. "Your leader still doubts us," she said quietly. "Doesn't he?" Tarek hesitated before nodding. "Varnock respects strength above all else. He sees your methods as clever but ultimately flawed. To him, survival means dominating, not adapting." "Then maybe we need to show him something." "Undeniable," Emily mused. "Something that proves our way works, not just in theory but in practice." Her words sparked an idea in Tarek's mind. "There may be a way," he said cautiously. "The Krelos Empire faces threats beyond your knowledge, threats that require more than raw power to overcome. If humanity could assist us in facing such dangers, it might change Varnock's perspective." Emily's eyes widened. "What kind of threats?" Before Tarek could elaborate, alarms blared throughout the facility. Everyone rushed to the main command center, where monitors displayed an incoming transmission. A massive fleet of unknown ships was approaching Earth's orbit at high speed. Their design was unlike anything the humans or Krylos had encountered before. Jagged, asymmetrical, and bristling with weapons. "This is bad," Kevin muttered, staring at the screen. "Really bad." Commander Varnock stepped forward, his voice booming with authority. "These are the Zorathians, ruthless scavengers who destroy anything in their path. They care nothing for honor or strength. They seek only resources and destruction." "Captain," Carter turned to face the room, "we can't fight them alone. We'll need every advantage we have." To everyone's surprise, Varnock nodded grimly. "Agreed. For now, our fates are intertwined. Prepare yourselves, humans. The battle ahead will test everything you claim to possess." As the humans scrambled to mobilize their defenses, Emily felt a surge of determination. This was it, the ultimate test of humanity's ingenuity and resilience. Together with the Krylos, they would face an enemy unlike any other, proving once and for all that their strengths were not weaknesses, but assets. The stage was set for a confrontation that would decide the fate of both species. Humanity's ability to adapt, strategize, and persevere would be pushed to its limits. And as the first shots rang out in the cold void of space, Emily knew one thing for certain. Sitting at the back wasn't about hiding. It was about seeing the bigger picture and acting decisively when the time was right. Little did anyone realize that this battle would forge bonds stronger than anyone could have imagined, uniting humans and Krylos in ways neither side had ever anticipated. The Zorathian fleet loomed menacingly in Earth's orbit, its jagged ships casting eerie shadows across the planet below. The humans and Krylos had little time to prepare. Panic rippled through United Earth headquarters as leaders scrambled to devise a plan. Captain Daniel Carter stood at the center of the chaos, his calm demeanor steadying those around him. Beside him, Commander Varnock radiated controlled intensity, his glowing eyes scanning the monitors displaying the incoming threat. "We must act quickly," Varnock growled. "The Zorathians are relentless. They will not stop until they have consumed everything." Lieutenant Emily Dawson stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "We've faced challenges before and we've overcome them by working together. This is no different. We need to combine our strengths, your power, and our strategy to stand a chance." Varnock turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Very well. Tell us your plan." Emily took a deep breath. She had been thinking about this moment ever since Tarek mentioned the Zorathians. Now, with humanity's survival on the line, she laid out her proposal. The Zorathians rely on overwhelming force and unpredictability. Their ships are fast but lack cohesion. If we can lure them into specific areas of space, we can use traps and coordinated attacks to neutralize their numbers. Kevin Blake, standing nearby, added, "Our ships aren't as strong as theirs, but we're faster and more agile. We can hit them hard, then retreat before they counterattack. Meanwhile, the Krylos can hold key positions, drawing their attention while we strike from behind." Commander Varnock listened intently, his massive frame unmoving. When Emily finished, he nodded slowly. "A bold plan, risky, but it may work." With the strategy agreed upon, both species sprang into action. The human fleet mobilized, its sleek vessels darting through space like silver fish. The Krylos warships, enormous and imposing, formed a protective barrier around Earth, ready to absorb the brunt of the Zorathian assault. Together they created a layered defense designed to exploit the enemy's weaknesses. As the battle began, the Zorathians wasted no time launching their attack. Their ships swarmed like insects, firing devastating energy blasts that tore through space. The Krylos bore the initial impact, their shields flickering under the onslaught but holding firm. Varnok's voice roared over the comlink, rallying his warriors. "Stand your ground, show them the strength of the Krylos Empire." Meanwhile, the human ships executed their maneuvers with precision. Lieutenant Kevin commanded a squadron tasked with luring a cluster of Zorathian fighters into a trap near an asteroid field. His ship danced through the debris, weaving between rocks as enemy fire chased after him. Just as planned, the Zorathians followed blindly, their aggression blinding them to the danger ahead. "Now," Kevin shouted into his comlink. Hidden among the asteroids, human mines detonated in a brilliant cascade of light and energy. The Zorathian ships were caught off guard, their formations shattered as explosions ripped through their ranks. Cheers erupted aboard the human vessels, but there was no time to celebrate. The battle was far from over. Elsewhere, Emily worked alongside Tarek aboard the USS Endeavour, coordinating efforts between the human and Krylos forces. Her quick thinking and ability to adapt proved invaluable as the tide of the battle shifted, unpredictably. At one point, a group of Zorathian cruisers broke through the Krylos lines, threatening to reach Earth itself. Without hesitation, Emily directed a team of Krylos warriors to intercept them, using their superior firepower to buy time for the humans to regroup. "You humans fight strangely," Tarek remarked as they monitored the engagement. "Your tactics are indirect, yet effective." "That's how we survive," Emily replied, her eyes glued to the screen. "We use what we have to make the most of every situation. It's not always pretty, but it gets the job done." Tarek nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps there is honor in such methods. As the hours dragged on, the battle grew increasingly desperate. The Zorathians adapted to the humans' tricks, forcing both sides to improvise constantly. Ships on all sides sustained heavy damage and losses mounted. But even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity's resilience shone through. Pilots risked their lives to protect their comrades. Engineers worked tirelessly to repair damaged systems, and commanders made split-second decisions that turned the tide of skirmishes. At one critical moment, a massive Zorathian dreadnought emerged from the fray, its weapons trained directly on Earth. If it fired, the devastation would be catastrophic. Commander Varnok immediately ordered his flagship to engage the behemoth, knowing full well the risk involved. The two ships clashed in a titanic struggle, their weapons unleashing torrents of energy that lit up the darkness of space. From her position aboard the Endeavour, Emily watched anxiously as the Krylos flagship absorbed blow after blow. "They're holding them off," she whispered, her voice tinged with awe. "But they can't keep this up forever." Captain Carter, standing beside her, clenched his fists. "We need to help them." "Any ideas?" Emily's mind raced. Then inspiration struck. "We can't match their firepower head-on, but we can target their weak points. If we coordinate a concentrated attack on their engines, we might disable them long enough for the Krylos to finish the job." Without waiting for approval, she relayed the plan to the human fleet. Within moments, a squadron of ships converged on the dreadnought, focusing their fire on its vulnerable rear section. The Zorathians, caught off guard by the sudden shift in strategy, struggled to respond. Explosions erupted along the dreadnought's hull as its engines sputtered and failed. Seizing the opportunity, Varnok's flagship delivered the final blow, unleashing a barrage of plasma torpedoes that tore through the dreadnought's core. With a deafening roar, the massive ship exploded, sending shockwaves rippling through space. The remaining Zorathian forces, demoralized and disorganized, began retreating. Cheers erupted across the human and Krylos fleets. Against all odds, they had won. Exhausted but triumphant, the survivors regrouped, tending to the wounded and assessing the damage. Though battered and bruised, Earth and humanity had endured. In the aftermath of the battle, tensions between the humans and Krylos gave way to mutual admiration. Commander Varnock addressed the assembled crew of the USS Endeavour, his tone unusually subdued. "You have proven yourselves worthy allies," he declared. "Your strategy saved us today. For that you have my respect." Captain Carter nodded graciously. "And your strength protected us when we needed it most. Together we achieved what neither of us could have done alone." Tarek approached Emily, his glowing eyes reflecting a mix of gratitude and curiosity. "You humans are remarkable. I underestimated you. I see now that your ways are not weak, they are wise." Emily smiled faintly. "We all have something to learn from each other. Maybe this is just the beginning." As the Krylos prepared to depart, promising to return and strengthen their newfound alliance, Emily reflected on everything that had happened. Humanity's tendency to sit at the back, to observe, plan, and act decisively, had once again proven its worth. It wasn't about hiding or avoiding conflict. It was about understanding the bigger picture and making choices that led to success. Little did anyone realize that this victory marked the start of something greater, a partnership that would reshape the galaxy. The bond forged in battle would endure, uniting humans and Krylos in a shared mission to explore, protect, and thrive. And as the stars twinkled in the vast expanse of space, Emily felt a spark of hope for the future. A future where differences became strengths and cooperation triumphed over division. The aftermath of the battle against the Zorathians left both humanity and the Krylos forever changed. The scars of war were visible: damaged ships, injured soldiers, and countless lives lost. But so too were the bonds forged in the heat of conflict. For the first time, the Krylos saw humanity not as fragile beings to be dismissed, but as resilient allies capable of standing shoulder to shoulder with them in the face of overwhelming odds. And for humanity, the Krylos were no longer just intimidating giants from another world. They were partners who had fought bravely to protect Earth. Commander Varnock called a final meeting before the Krylos delegation prepared to leave. He stood tall on the bridge of his flagship, his glowing eyes scanning the humans gathered before him. His voice resonated deeply as he spoke. "You have earned my respect," he began. "Your kind may lack our physical might, but you possess qualities we do not, qualities that complement our own. Together we are stronger." Captain Daniel Carter stepped forward, his expression solemn yet hopeful. "We've learned much from this experience, Commander. Not just about your people, but about ourselves. If there's one thing we've proven, it's that differences don't have to divide us. They can make us better." Varnock nodded slowly. "Perhaps, but remember this: trust must be maintained. If we are to call ourselves allies, we must act. As such, no secrets, no betrayals." "You have our word," Carter replied firmly, "and you have ours." As the formalities concluded, Emily Dawson found herself standing beside Tarek near the edge of the docking bay. The younger Krylos warrior looked at her with an expression she hadn't seen before, something softer, almost human. "I did not expect to find friendship among your kind," he admitted quietly, "but I am glad I did." Emily smiled. "Me too. You've taught us a lot about strength and courage. Maybe someday others will see what we've seen, that working together makes all of us stronger." Tarek hesitated, then extended one massive hand toward her. Unsure at first, Emily reached out and placed her smaller hand in his. It was a simple gesture, but it carried immense weight, a symbol of the newfound understanding between their species. Before boarding their ship, the Krylos made one final promise. They would share advanced technologies with humanity to aid in its recovery and growth. This included energy systems capable of powering entire cities, medical advancements that could heal wounds faster than ever before, and propulsion designs that would allow human ships to travel farther and faster. In return, humanity offered its own gifts: art, music, literature, and stories of perseverance that resonated deeply with the Krylos. Among these exchanges, Tarek chose to stay behind as an ambassador, eager to continue learning about humanity, while fostering goodwill between the two species. His decision surprised even Varnock, who regarded his young warrior with a mix of pride and concern. "Are you certain of this?" Varnock asked him privately before departure. "I am," Tarek replied without hesitation. "There is still so much to learn, so much to understand. Let me be the bridge between our peoples." Varnock nodded, placing a heavy hand on Tarek's shoulder. "Then go. Make us proud." In the weeks that followed, life on Earth began to stabilize. Repairs to damaged infrastructure progressed rapidly thanks to Krylos technology, and morale soared as news of the Alliance spread across the globe. People marveled at the sight of towering Krylos warriors walking alongside humans in cities and towns, their presence no longer a source of fear, but of reassurance. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged victorious, not through brute force but through cooperation and ingenuity. Emily took on the role of guiding Tarek as he adjusted to life on Earth. She introduced him to everything from cultural festivals to scientific conferences, helping him navigate the complexities of human society. At times, his reactions were amusingly straightforward. During a visit to a bustling marketplace, Tarek stared in bewilderment at a street performer juggling flaming torches. "Why does he risk injury for entertainment?" he asked. Emily laughed. "Because sometimes joy is worth the risk." Tarek tilted his head thoughtfully. Joy, an interesting concept. Their friendship deepened as they explored each other's worlds, finding common ground despite their differences. Tarek shared tales of Krylos history, speaking of battles fought under alien suns and civilizations built on honor and strength. In turn, Emily recounted stories of humanity's struggles and triumphs, highlighting moments when creativity and unity had saved the day. Through these exchanges, they discovered that beneath the surface, their species weren't so different. After all, they both yearned for connection, purpose, and meaning. Meanwhile, Captain Carter worked tirelessly to solidify the alliance, ensuring that the partnership between humans and Krylos remained strong. Diplomatic missions traveled back and forth between Earth and the Krylos Empire, laying the groundwork for joint projects and shared goals. Scientists collaborated on groundbreaking research. Engineers designed hybrid vessels combining human agility with Krylos durability, and military strategists developed plans to safeguard the galaxy from future threats like the Zorathians. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light over United Earth headquarters, Emily and Tarek stood side by side on a balcony overlooking the city. Below them, humans and Krylos moved about harmoniously, their interactions marked by mutual respect and curiosity. "Do you think this peace will last?" Tarek asked, breaking the silence. Emily glanced at him, her green eyes reflecting determination. "It has to. Too many sacrifices have been made for us to let it fall apart. We've shown that even the strongest species can learn from those who sit at the back to observe, adapt, and act wisely. That lesson isn't just for you or for us, it's for everyone." Tarek nodded, his glowing eyes softening. "Perhaps you're right. Perhaps sitting at the back is not weakness but wisdom." They stood there for a while longer, watching as the stars began to appear in the night sky. Each pinprick of light represented a distant world, a potential ally or adversary. The galaxy was vast and unpredictable, filled with challenges yet unseen. But for the first time, humanity didn't feel alone in facing them. With the Krylos by their side, they had a chance to build something greater than themselves, a legacy of understanding, cooperation, and hope. Far above Earth, the Krylos fleet prepared to depart, their ships gleaming against the backdrop of space. As they vanished into the void, Commander Varnock's parting words echoed in Emily's mind. "You may sit at the back, but you do so to see further than anyone else." She smiled to herself, knowing that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its weapons or technology, but in its ability to inspire change, even in the hearts of the galaxy's strongest species.